Sometimes you find an enemy in a game that makes you think, not all battles are worth fighting. Fortunately, there's battles worth fighting in War Thunder. War Thunder is available for free on console and PC as the most comprehensive vehicle combat game, with realistic epic PvP battles that feature over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from across the world from 10 major nations spanning over 100 years of history, with each vehicle modeled down to every individual component alongside an X-ray view that shows you which components were destroyed by your damage. It's pretty dope. Join over 70 million players by using my link in the pinned comment or video description down below to sign up for War Thunder on PC, PlayStation, or Xbox today. And for a limited time, new players and those who haven't played in 6 months will receive a massive bonus pack that includes premium vehicles, the exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days for premium account. Silent Hill. Thanks to Martha Mathias for submitting this discovery on the oddheader Reddit. Silent Hill, released in 1999 for PlayStation, known as one of the scariest games of all time. Though not as popular as its sequel Silent Hill 2, which was recently remade. Part of the reason the first Silent Hill looks so creepy is because the developers had to make the environment dark and shadowy to make up for the limitations of the PlayStation. Yet that doesn't appear to be the only thing the developers of the game were hiding, as data miners found some unused enemies in the files of the game that still remain unsolved. Back in 2017, Ruker666 used a tool to extract every file from an encrypted .exe file on the Silent Hill game disk. To their surprise, Ruker discovered unused textures and 3D meshes for 7 cut enemies. Due to the difficulty of extracting the files, Ruker is believed to be the first person to ever see the cut content 18 years after the game's release. Ruker hacked the enemy files into the game and placed the game's normal enemies to reveal what the creatures would have looked like. As it turns out, we would have originally had to fight a giant frog-looking thing without a head, this strange creature that's apparently supposed to be a mutant monkey, a creepy giant moth, a stingray, these slug-looking things standing upright, and a jumping ostrich-looking thing without a head. Is there a secret zoo level in this game? Though nothing could prepare players for the final cut enemy that Ruker found, as we would have originally had to fight this giant skinless chicken thing. Ruker found that the chicken's files are much larger than the files of the other cut enemies, which they believe means that Mr. Chicken was probably meant to be a boss. Nothing else appears to be known about these creatures, except that when the game's art director Masahiro Ito was asked about them, all he said was that he made some of the creatures, but that he had no comment. No comment seems to pretty much sum it up, because after seeing this, I've got nothing to say either. Silent Hill is a pretty disturbing game, but when the hell were we gonna fight a nude chicken man? The Last of Us, Part 2. Thanks to Blazer44 for submitting this discovery on the oddheader Discord. The Last of Us Part 2 released in 2020 for the PlayStation 4 and later on PlayStation 5. The game is full of unsettling enemies mutated by the cordyceps virus, and one type of enemy is perhaps the creepiest and most difficult to kill of them all. Hiding in abandoned subway tunnels are these shambler enemies, which can fire acid attacks at you from these large pustules growing around their heads and necks. And once you finally defeat them, they explode fungus spores everywhere. Gross. However, pre-alpha gameplay footage reveals that these enemies would have been worse than that, as in 2021, The Last of Us 2 lead designer Matt Gallant showed what the shamblers would have originally looked like, with the pustules moved to an area much lower, and the explosion coming straight out of their asses. While Ellie certainly has a lot to deal with in The Last of Us Part 2, I think having an infected exploded ass directly in her face would have been taking things a little too far. The Binding of Isaac, Rebirth. Thanks to Mental for submitting this discovery through oddheader.com. The Binding of Isaac is a roguelike dungeon crawler game released in 2011, with the improved Rebirth version releasing later in 2014. The surprise indie hit follows Isaac as he escapes from his mother trying to sacrifice him, based on the biblical story of Isaac. The game is also well known for causing controversy with Nintendo, who originally didn't want to publish the game on 3DS due to its criticism of religion. However, data miners made some discoveries in the game that show the Binding of Isaac's themes maybe wasn't all Nintendo should have been worried about, as Tubby Goob on YouTube was looking through the files of the game when they found a recipe to make brownies. More confusing than that, however, was a phase for the Hush boss that appears to have been removed from the game, was also found in the files. The Hush boss first appears in the battle in a form identical to dead Isaac before growing wings and transforming into this giant blob with a face. However, the cut-faced Tubby Goob found reveals that the boss would have possibly turned into this horrifying thing, called a Hush Skinless in the game files. The skinless Hush looks quite out of place and doesn't appear to be similar to the original Hush boss, with some suggesting it may have been intended for a different boss altogether. Some have also suggested it's included as a troll or a way to throw off hackers, not unlike the recipe for brownies. The skinless Hush also appears to have this pretty spooky animation, but when loaded into the game, it doesn't do anything. Ultimately, it's completely unknown why the Hush skinless is in the files of the Binding of Isaac, but it definitely is spooky. And as far as the brownies, damn good. Bloodborne. Bloodborne is From Software's 2015 RPG, where a disease that turns people into beasts has spread around the Gothic-inspired city of Yharnam. Like all From Software titles, the game is known for its many creepy bosses that are insanely difficult to defeat. However, data miners found there would have been even more, as there are cut enemies in the files of the game, such as this unused chalice beast found by Zully the Witch in Omega Fantasy, which looks like a giant killer beaver with moose horns swinging at you with a huge axe, or this giant snake ball found by Lance McDonald, which has the ability to send even more giant snakes to attack you from underground, and was also supposed to be able to spit poison at you. However, Zully the Witch in Omega Fantasy uncovered another cut boss that would have been even more terrible than the rest. The enemy, called the Great One Beast, was first uncovered in 2017, hacking the beast into the game. Omega Fantasy shows off what looks like a red-eyed dragon-looking thing covered in spiky black fur. However, the boss fight still appears to be unfinished, as the textures are low resolution and there aren't any detailed attack animations. Then 3 years later in 2020, when everyone had more time on their hands for some reason, the modder Foxy Hooligans used the assets left in the files for the Great One Beast and restored the boss fight in the game. With Foxy Hooligans mod, we can see the Great One Beast is even larger than previously shown, with sharper teeth and what appears to be electroshock powers. But considering this is a From Software game, I'm not complaining we had one less beast to worry about. Sonic Adventure. Thanks to Bowser X19 for submitting this discovery on the Oddheader Discord. Sonic Adventure, released in 1998 for the Dreamcast, is the first 3D game in the main series. The game is fondly remembered by many fans, including myself, as one of the best Sonic games. However, over the years, players have discovered some interesting cut content that ended up removed from the game, such as this cowgirl in Casinopolis who only moans when you run into her that for some reason is only in the Japanese version. Turns out that's not the only thing that's hiding in Sonic Adventure, as players found a cut enemy in the Sky Chase minigame. In the game, Sonic and Tails must chase down Dr. Robotnik in his egg carrier ship, firing at him while dodging his attacks to avoid damage to their plane. However, hackers found in the data there's apparently another enemy in this sequence that can't normally be seen. By hacking the enemy back into the game, and then holding down the center camera button during this part, we get— oh shit! We can get a surprise glimpse of a giant mechanical dragon. Wait, was this guy following us the entire time? The enemy, despite breathing fire, can't actually cause any damage, nor can the player damage it at all, which is nice considering the scene is hard enough to begin with. Interestingly, according to the Sonic Wiki, this dragon robot also appears in the data and in the background for a brief moment in Sonic 06. My friend and hacker Slippy Slides investigated that for this video and couldn't find any evidence of this at all. Why this mechanical dragon is creepily trailing a completely unsuspecting Sonic and Tails, and why it manages to show up in both the best and supposedly the worst Sonic game of all time, remains a mystery. Fortnite. Thanks to Zoe for submitting this discovery on the Oddheader Discord. Fortnite is a game that needs no introduction, as everyone and their grandmother knows what this is. However, what's not well known are the horrors lurking in the files if you data mine the game. Zoe on the Oddheader Discord was data mining an alpha build of Fortnite when they found this strange enemy in the files that they'd never seen before. The enemy, called the werewolf zombie, looks fairly unusual, and Lost of Fortnite on Twitter also managed to get a look at the enemy in the files and found it didn't have any animations. It's possible the werewolf zombie could be a leftover from earlier in the game's development. Epic Games originally intended Fortnite to be a horror game, with the game's first trailer from 2011 looking nothing like the game that was actually released. In 2014, Fortnite's former art director Peter Ellis told IGN that developers imagined the game as a more over-the-top horror experience, but as they worked on the gameplay, it took on a more lighthearted fantasy feel. Thus, the gruesome characters were made to look sillier, such as the Huss, who originally a lot more scary and realistic looking, or these zombie designs and a soul eater. The unused werewolf enemy was found in a folder called Transylvania, which is possibly a location that later became the Hexylvania map players can access during the Halloween season. The only thing is, being that this was found in an alpha, the only alpha build I can find is from 2014, which is when they already would have started moving away from the creepy tone of the game and far before they would have ever implemented a Halloween update. So honestly, why is this thing in the files of the game? Jak 3. Jak and Daxter is one of my favorite game series of all time, with Jak 3 being the exciting 2004 conclusion to Naughty Dog's PlayStation 2 platforming trilogy. Despite many like myself having played this game several times with its re-releases for each console generation, one unexplainable occurrence has managed to randomly happen for only a handful of players while playing the game. Beginning with a video from 11 years ago in 2013, a YouTuber named FaithPixel uploaded a video called Jak 3 Random Giant Robot. In the video, FaithPixel was playing the Defend the HQ mission, where Jak defends the headquarters from a bombardment of normal enemies, when suddenly a huge robot appeared they never saw before, nor had most people in the comments of wherever the video was shared, as a giant robot did not seem to normally appear in the mission. However, some of the comments said they remember seeing such a sight before when they were younger, and that no one believed them when they told others. 7 years later, PowerZell Zeke Streams was streaming the game in 2020, and when Zeke got to the mission, Zeke started describing the supposedly rare occurrence of the giant robot appearing and how Zeke always wanted it to show up during a stream. Ironically enough, after playing the mission for 10 minutes straight, exactly that happened, as the giant robot managed to show up and scared the hell out of Zeke.
Holy! Oh my god, oh my god!
Which also gave us a clear view of the enemy, although it disappeared sporadically and wouldn't give or take any damage, suggesting that it was possibly unfinished and unintended, only for it to disappear for good after Zeke died in the mission. Then in 2022, another streamer, WOT7N Recordings, managed to recreate the giant robot after 10 hours across 2 days of streaming, estimating that the giant robot had a 1 in 1,000 chance of appearing. One of my favorite YouTubers, Luminar Light, who I've covered before for their hacks and discoveries in the Jak and Daxter games, also tried exploring the mystery of the giant robot, obtaining a save state of it from a member of their Discord in 2021, which allowed them to determine that the robot's size was not the result of a glitch, but couldn't figure out how or why it spawned. Thanks to a project called Open Goal, where fans have been trying to port a native application version of the original games to PC, Luminar Light 5 months ago in 2024 finally managed to hack in the enemy wherever they wanted. It noted that the enemy is impressively made, but doesn't feel right for some reason, and still didn't know why or how it appeared in the Defend the HQ mission. Why this giant, monstrous, out-of-place robot managed to sometimes appear on this mission at random has remained unknown in the 20 years since the game has been released. So the next time anyone plans to do a playthrough of Jak 3, make sure to keep an eye out, because you never know when this huge towering monstrosity might randomly appear. Steam VR Performance Test. Thanks to PoorPockets McNewHold for submitting this discovery on the oddheader Discord. The Steam VR Performance Test isn't a game, but a tech demo released by Valve in 2016 to let PC users see if their machines were capable of playing games with a VR headset. The demo itself isn't much to get excited about, as all you really did was look around at this machine. However, what is interesting are some mysterious discoveries hiding in the data of the demo, as inside the files was an earlier build of Steam VR that had a number of Source 2 engine assets, which included assets for Half-Life 3 and Left 4 Dead 3 projects that Valve attempted to make in Source 2, though later reported that the engine couldn't support development. However, the most interesting thing found in the files could change the Portal series as we know it, as in the cut Source 2 material was this creepy face, which evidently would have been used for the main antagonist of the Portal series, GLaDOS, despite the fact she never dons a human face throughout the whole series. And this unused animation, which shows that at one point GLaDOS would have rotated this head into place, was found in the files of Valve's VR demo of the lab, even though GLaDOS only appears in the lab for about 2 minutes and nothing of the sort happens. Fingers crossed this is something that remains unused and not something actually meant for a future title, as the last thing I want to do is come face to face with GLaDOS looking like this. And thanks again to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. War Thunder is an immersive vehicular combat game that runs on the optimized in-house Dagger engine, which delivers realistic visuals and sounds as you pilot impressively detailed war machines completely lag-free even on low-end machines. Something I love about War Thunder is that it offers a variety of play options depending on the type of experience you're seeking, such as arcade mode with enhanced vehicle performance and simplified physics, or simulation mode which ditches guardrails for the ultimate challenge, or realistic mode which balances intensity and authenticity. Best of all, you can play War Thunder right now for free on PC, PlayStation, and Xbox by using my link in the video description or pinned comment down below. New returning players can also collect a huge bonus pack that's only available for a limited time, so be sure to claim it before it's gone. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you know of any other creepy enemies that were removed from video games that you'd like to see me cover, submit through oddheader.com, come join the Discord, or even send me a shout through Twitter or Reddit. And thanks again to Slippy Slides for helping get the footage in this video. Feel free to subscribe to him down below as well. Shout out to Angel the Fox, Ash Photography, BitWiff27, Black Evie50, Chad Biscuits, Eddie Talkspin the Bleach Primid, Flex, Isaac Murillo, Kieran Bolton, The Meatly, Phoenix157, Rackman22, Riley S, Robert Eisen, Rolkot Mifula, Select, Subrock, and Terrence Stock for their Patreon support. Stay tuned.